Edwin awoke at precisely 6:45 a.m. Not because an alarm rang or a bird chirped, but because that was the time he always awoke, without question, without fail. He sat up in bed and looked around the room, which looked exactly the same as the morning before. Pale beige walls, a modest wooden dresser, a perfectly aligned pair of slippers at the foot of his bed. He placed his feet into those slippers and stood. The floor was neither too cold nor too warm. It was simply floor temperature, just as he liked it. In the bathroom, he washed his face with 3 splashes of water. Not 2, not 4, 3. He patted it dry with the same towel he had used for the past several mornings. It smelled like nothing, which he found pleasant. For breakfast, Edwin made oatmeal. He used exactly half a cup of oats and 1 cup of water. He stirred clockwise 7 times before placing the bowl in the microwave for 2 minutes and 15 seconds. Not a second more, not a second less. He sat at his table and looked out the window while the oatmeal cooled. A single bird landed on the fence. It looked around, found nothing of interest, and flew away. The oatmeal was ready. Edwin ate slowly, savoring the consistency. Not the taste. It was nearly flavorless, but the texture was ideal. After breakfast, Edwin brushed his teeth for exactly 2 minutes. His toothbrush was blue, and the toothpaste was minty but mild. He looked at himself in the mirror, gave a small nod, and turned off the bathroom light. He slipped into his walking shoes and stepped outside. The walk was quiet. The sidewalk was free of cracks, the lawns evenly mowed. A squirrel ran across the street. Edwin watched it disappear into a hedge. That was the highlight of the walk. He returned home exactly 23 minutes later. He removed his shoes and lined them up neatly by the door. He watered his plant, Gerald. Gerald was a ficus. He didn't require much, but Edwin enjoyed the routine. He gave him 3 ounces of water and turned the pot slightly to ensure even sunlight exposure. Lunch was a sandwich, 1 slice of turkey, 1 slice of cheese, and a single lettuce leaf between 2 slices of whole wheat bread. No condiments, no surprises. He ate it while reading the newspaper. The front page story was about a minor traffic light malfunction downtown. No one was hurt. The light blinked yellow for 23 minutes before being fixed. In the afternoon, Edwin sat in his chair and looked at the wall. It was a good wall. He imagined it might have been painted eggshell white, though he wasn't certain. At precisely 2:30, he dusted a bookshelf. He used a microfiber cloth and worked left to right, top to bottom. It took 7 minutes. Dinner was soup, vegetable, not too hot, not too salty. He ate it with crackers. 3, arranged in a triangle beside the bowl. At 8 o'clock, Edwin watched a documentary about paper. He didn't learn anything new, but the narration was soothing. He brushed his teeth again, changed into soft pajamas, and climbed into bed. He set his alarm for 6:45 a.m., though he knew he wouldn't need it. He closed his eyes. He breathed slowly. In, out, and soon, Edwin slept. Day 2 in Edwin's week. The sun rose at the same pace it always did. Edwin, as expected, awoke at 6:45 a.m. He sat up, blinked twice, and stared out the window. The sky was a soft gray, undecided between being overcast or clear. He found that ambiguity oddly comforting. He repeated his morning routine, 3 splashes of water on the face, same towel, same oatmeal. This time, a different bird landed on the fence, or at least he assumed it was different. He hadn't taken a photo of the first bird. He ate slowly, appreciating the steam rising from the bowl. He imagined it was mist from a faraway lake. He liked that thought, so he held onto it a while longer than necessary. His walk lasted exactly 23 minutes again. He passed the same hedge, but today the squirrel was not there. Instead, a leaf fell. He watched it make its gentle descent, twisting slightly before it landed flat. Back at home, Gerald the ficus received his daily water. Edwin adjusted the blinds to let in a bit more light. Not too much, just enough to make the room feel balanced. Lunch was the same sandwich, though today the lettuce had a crispier crunch. He noted it with satisfaction. The newspaper featured an article about a cat stuck in a tree for 2 hours. It was rescued with a ladder and a patient firefighter. Edwin imagined the cat's indifference after being rescued. Cats were like that, he thought. He dusted the bookshelf again, though it didn't need it. Still, routine was routine. He placed a coaster under his glass of water and drank exactly half of it before stopping. No reason. Just a habit now. Dinner was the same soup, still warm, still mild, still just enough. He watched another documentary, this one about sand. It detailed how grains of sand are shaped by wind and time. Edwin thought of the sand he'd walked on as a boy. It had been warm, software. He couldn't remember the beach's name, but he remembered the feeling under his feet. Bedtime arrived. He brushed his teeth, straightened the quilt, and lay in bed. He looked at the ceiling. No thoughts, just presence. He closed his eyes, breathed in, out, and slowly he drifted off. Day 3 in Edwin's week. The rain began sometime in the early hours, not loud, not wild, just a gentle tapping on the window. Edwin woke at 6:45 a.m. and listened. He lay there a moment longer than usual, appreciating the rhythm of the droplets. After rising, he performed his routine without variation: face towel, oatmeal, bird watching. Today, no bird appeared, only the wet fence and a single puddle forming beneath it. His oatmeal was slightly thinner today. He suspected he had poured a touch too much water. Still, it was fine. His walk was shorter, 12 minutes instead of 23. He carried a small umbrella, black, compact, reliable. The sidewalks glistened with rain. He passed a parked car and saw his reflection in the window, blurred slightly by droplets. He liked that image, imperfect, but whole. Back home, he dried his umbrella and placed it in the stand beside the door. Gerald received his usual 3 ounces. The blinds remained shut. Edwin turned on a lamp instead. Soft light, calming. Lunch was warm today. He toasted the sandwich. The cheese melted just a bit. A small change, but noticeable, satisfying. The newspaper featured an article on city benches. Apparently, some had been repainted. Edwin wondered what color. He hoped for green. That afternoon, he rearranged the spoons in the drawer, not because they were disordered, but because he felt like it. Large spoons to the left, small ones to the right. One spoon had a slightly bent handle. He decided to keep it anyway. Character, he thought. Dinner was a rice dish, mild seasoning, soft vegetables, a gentle chew. He considered soup again, but thought he might return to it tomorrow. He watched a program about clouds. The narrator described cumulus formations and high-altitude ice crystals. Edwin looked at the window. Still cloudy, still raining. Before bed, he read a chapter from a book about moss. He liked the idea of moss. Quiet, green, persistent. He set the book down, pulled the quilt to his chin, and closed his eyes. The rain continued softly, and so did his sleep. Day 4 in Edwin's week. The sky was clear again, blue like the inside of a softly polished stone. Edwin awoke at 6:45 a.m., not a minute early, not a minute late. He sat up and breathed deeply through his nose. The air smelled faintly of yesterday's rain. His routine unfolded like a quiet ritual. 3 splashes, 1 towel. The oatmeal came out perfectly this time, neither too thick nor too runny. Just right. A bird returned to the fence, different than before. Plumper, perhaps. It didn't stay long. His walk returned to the full 23 minutes. The ground was dry but darker in color from its recent soaking. He passed the hedge and noticed a small candy wrapper tucked beneath it. He didn't touch it, but he made a mental note to bring a bag tomorrow. Gerald looked healthier today, or maybe just happier. Edwin rotated the pot a few degrees clockwise. The sun fell on the leaves in a new pattern. Satisfying. Lunch was a salad, lettuce, cucumber, and a boiled egg. No dressing, crisp, clean, familiar. He spent the early afternoon sorting old receipts, not because he needed to, but because they were there. He threw none away, just reorganized them by month and clipped them neatly. The newspaper mentioned a new clock being installed in the town square. He wondered if it would chime. He hoped it wouldn't. Silence was better. Dinner was soup again, slightly warmer than before. He added 2 crackers this time, not 3. A small rebellion. He watched a documentary on trains, slow-moving ones filmed from above, crawling through snow-covered terrain. He liked how the tracks stretched far into the horizon, disappearing into quiet. Later, he stared at the bookshelf. Not because he wanted a book, but because the colors of the spines felt like a gradient he hadn't noticed before. He brushed his teeth and sat on the edge of the bed for a moment. He didn't think about much. Just felt the calm hum of everything being in its place. Then he slid under the covers and closed his eyes, and the night took him gently. Day 5 in Edwin's week. Edwin awoke as usual, 6:45 a.m. No dreams, just sleep that began and ended as if switching off and on a lamp. He stretched his arms once, then stood. A breeze passed through the curtains. The window was slightly ajar. He didn't remember opening it, but he wasn't surprised either. The splash of water on his face felt cooler today. The towel was folded a little differently on the rack. A small corner hung lower. He adjusted it after drying off. Breakfast was oatmeal. No surprise, the oats were from the same container. But today, Edwin added a tiny sprinkle of cinnamon. A whim, a soft upgrade. The bird on the fence returned, or maybe a third bird. This one had a little hop to its step. Edwin watched it for a full minute before it fluttered away. On his walk, he brought a small plastic bag and retrieved the candy wrapper from under the hedge. He folded it into a square and tucked it into his pocket until he could toss it in the proper bin. He continued the walk without urgency. He noticed a dog in a neighboring yard lying still, watching the world go by. Edwin nodded at the dog, though it didn't seem to notice. Back home, Gerald the ficus had a new leaf beginning to unfurl. Edwin leaned in to inspect it. He smiled but didn't touch it. Growth takes time, and Edwin understood that. Lunch was warm soup left over from the night before. He heated it gently, stirred slowly, and ate beside the window. The sunlight warmed one side of his face while he chewed. He spent the afternoon tightening a few screws on the chair in the corner. It didn't wobble, but he liked ensuring things stayed solid. The newspaper headline today was about a missing sock found at the local laundromat. The article stretched longer than necessary, which Edwin found oddly charming. Dinner was a baked potato, plain except for a dusting of salt. He ate it slowly, chewing thoughtfully, sipping water in between bites. He watched a nature program about frogs. Their movements were calm, almost exaggerated in slow motion. He wondered how it would feel to move like that, purposeful, unhurried. Before bed, he opened the window just slightly again, just enough for a whisper of cool air. Teeth brushed, light off, quilt drawn to chin. He stared into the dark a little longer tonight. Not because he couldn't sleep, but because he was content just lying there, breathing in and breathing out. It's 6:45 a.m., same as every other day. He blinked twice and rolled his shoulders before sitting up. The room felt a little cooler. He didn't mind. He liked the feeling of a chill that could be solved with a warm drink. His routine was unchanged: face, towel, oatmeal. He paused while stirring to watch the steam rise and curl. He imagined it forming tiny shapes, nothing in particular, just movement. Today, no bird on the fence, but he spotted a feather resting on the lawn, small, gray, a soft reminder that the birds had been there. His walk was calm. He passed a woman walking a dog. They nodded to each other, not stopping. The dog glanced at Edwin but kept its focus forward. Purposeful. The sky was a soft white, clouded but bright. The kind of sky that made everything look evenly lit. Back home, he dusted the windowsill and adjusted a slightly crooked frame. It had been that way for weeks, maybe months. Today felt like the day to fix it. Lunch was a warm sandwich, toasted and cut into exact halves. He ate one half, waited 10 minutes, then ate the second. No rush, just enjoyment. In the afternoon, Edwin organized his drawer of cords and plugs. He labeled each one carefully with tape. Phone charger, lamp cord, extension cable. He didn't need the labels. But now they were there. The newspaper had no headline he remembered. He read every article but forgot them by dinner. That felt fine. Dinner was rice again, soft, with a bit of butter this time. He stirred it slowly, watching it settle before taking a bite. He watched a documentary about underwater caves. The camera moved slowly. The narrator spoke softly. He imagined drifting through one of those caves, weightless, quiet, unseen. Before bed, he lit a candle, just for a few minutes. The scent reminded him of pine needles and something else he couldn't name. He blew it out and watched the smoke fade upward. Then came the usual: teeth, lights, quilt. Breathing in, breathing out. Sleep didn't come fast, but it came. Day 7 in Edwin's week. Edwin awoke at 6:45 a.m., the last day of the week. Not different, not special, just next in line. He lay still for a full minute, watching the ceiling. The morning light painted faint lines across it from the blinds. They didn't move, neither did he. When he did rise, he took his time. 3 splashes of water, a towel fold slightly off-center. He left it that way. Oatmeal again, with no cinnamon this time. He stirred it a little longer, just to watch the swirl. The fence was empty today. No birds, no squirrels, just a stillness that fit the moment. His walk was slow, not shorter, not longer, just slower. He passed the same sights, but took a second look at a crack in the sidewalk. It looked vaguely like the shape of a whale. He liked that. Gerald's new leaf had opened fully. Bright green, soft edges, slightly curved. Edwin ran one finger along the edge, careful not to press too hard. Lunch was a boiled egg and toast. The egg was slightly overdone, but the toast was perfect. Crisp on the outside, soft in the middle. In the afternoon, Edwin rearranged 3 books on his shelf. Not because they were wrong, just because they could be better. Balance, symmetry, quiet satisfaction. The newspaper was thin today. Only a few stories. One about a local painter finishing a mural. Edwin had never seen it, but he imagined the colors. Maybe blue, maybe orange, something warm. Dinner was soup. One final bowl for the week. He added 2.5 crackers. Not planned, just what felt right. He watched a program with no narration, just the sound of wind moving through trees. A camera followed leaves across a forest floor. Edwin sat still and let it wash over him. Before bed, he stood at the window for a full 5 minutes. He didn't think. He didn't need to. He turned off the light, tucked himself into bed, and sighed once quietly. No anticipation for tomorrow, no regrets from today, just the sound of the room, the feel of the sheets, the rhythm of his breath. And sleep came like it always did, quiet, easy, kind.